Home Depot, the $400 billion empire that once dominated every residential construction project in America, where every American believes that with just a hammer, a little paint, and willpower, we can create a better life for ourselves. But in recent months, sales have plummeted and tens of billions of dollars in stock value have evaporated. And inside the shops, the silence wasn't the sound of hammers, but the sound of worry. What's really going on? Why are Americans, who once considered home improvement a source of pride, now abandoning projects midway? Behind the light of a once invincible brand lies a chain of decisions, mistakes, and economic shocks spreading across America. Today, we're opening Home Depot's Pandora's box to understand why, when Americans stop renovating their homes, they're renovating their own beliefs. But first, let's go back to the starting line, where the dream of renovating a house began. It wasn't just a store, it was hope you could build for yourself. That's an old slogan, but it hit the soul of Home Depot. Born in 1978 during a period of economic transformation in the United States, Home Depot didn't just sell materials. They sold the belief that anyone could build their own dreams. The two founders, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank, saw the gap between small independent stores and the booming demand for home improvement after World War II. They didn't just open the first hardware store, they created a new consumer religion called DIY, do-it-yourself. There, every snail, every coat of paint is not just merchandise, they are symbols of independence, of the DIY spirit to be self-reliant. And so, Home Depot spread like the neural network of the American dream. By the early 2000s, over 1 million visitors were stopping by each week, equivalent to an entire small city crammed onto the distinctive orange shelves. If Walmart sells necessities to live, Home Depot sells materials to dream. Then in 2020, when the whole world shut down, a paradox occurred. Home Depot entered the most prosperous period in its history. Millions of Americans were stuck at home, and suddenly they started looking around. The wall is peeling, the shelf is loose, and the screws are stripped. The floor tiles are peeling. In a frozen world, home renovation becomes a psychological remedy. The scenes from those days now look like documentary footage from a strange time. People lined up for blocks outside the stores, spaced out by meters, and trucks carrying wood lined up like relief convoys. Home Depot and Lowe's revenue increased by over 20% in just 1 year, a figure that even retailers dream of achieving. Americans spend over $500 billion on repairs, renovations, and gardening, more than the combined defense budgets of many countries. Home is no longer just a place to live, it's the whole world during the pandemic. Social media is flooded with DIY quarantine videos, from tiling floors to building kitchen shelves. Economists call it the home renovation boom. But you know, like every fever, light always comes with darkness. And the first cracks, so small that no one noticed, began to appear right in the middle of the boom. Lumber prices doubled in just a few months. Metal materials are scarce, and supply chains are choked. A sheet of plywood that originally cost $15 shot up to $60. A cheap kitchen cabinet set now costs as much as a short vacation. People started taking out loans to repair their homes, using the value of their apartments as collateral. The house, the safest place, has now become the biggest money-burning machine. That's when the U.S. household debt index surpassed $17 trillion, higher than China's GDP at the time. Analysts have warned, you can't build a new dream on the foundation of old debt. But in the midst of economic euphoria, few heard. Externally, Home Depot is still running vibrant advertisements. Its stock is at a record high, and investors are cheering. But inside, longtime employees began to notice something different. The customers were no longer professional tradespeople, but rather residents desperately trying to make repairs. An anonymous employee shared, "People buy things they don't understand, with money they don't have, for a house they're about to sell." The saying sounds harsh, but it accurately reflects the mindset of America at that time. A society trying to patch up psychological cracks with a coat of bright orange paint. Is the American dream of home renovation truly a dream? Or is it just a mirror reflecting the crisis of faith, where each hammer blow is an attempt to convince oneself that everything is still okay? What do you think? When people try to renovate their homes, are they trying to change the house? Or are they trying to regain a sense of control over their lives? And then, just 2 years later, those cracks began to spread. The storm of high prices, tariffs, and consumer fear has brought down that wall of confidence. The warning came, but unfortunately, no one had time to listen. In mid-2022, when the press was still praising Home Depot as an unshakable empire, the numbers in the financial reports began to send strange signals. Sales that used to increase by 20% each year are now only inching up by 2%. Then it stopped completely. Stocks fell, but no one noticed, because who would think Americans would stop renovating their homes? On the chart, Home Depot's characteristic orange growth line began to slightly distort, then break. It wasn't a straight vertical drop, but a silent slide, like a roof where the beams are starting to crack without anyone hearing a sound. At the same time, Google Trends recorded that searches for the keyword home renovation decreased by over 40% in just 1 year. Interest evaporates, and for a brand that relies on consumer inspiration, that's a more concerning sign than sales. If in the past Home Depot was a place people entered with enthusiasm, now the dominant emotion is frustration. I spent thousands of dollars and no one helped me load the goods. The price is high, but the quality is terrible. The store feels lifeless. The complaints spread like an electrical leak. Online, thousands of negative comments appeared, reflecting a cold reality. Customers no longer feel respected. Retail experts call this the empty store effect. As the number of employees decreases, training suffers, and the shopping experience becomes impersonal, consumers feel distant, even in chains they once knew well. From dusty shelves to the indifferent stares of employees, Home Depot is beginning to lose what once made them unbeatable: trust. In 2023, surveys showed that 30% of Americans completely cut spending on home repairs. One person said, "I don't buy paint, I buy food." It sounds simple, but it's the confession of a tired economy. People are huddling together, shifting from make it better to make it last. Not upgrading, just trying to keep everything usable. A familiar sight in stores, more staff than customers, more inventory than demand. The decline of Home Depot has probably begun, not with a bang, not with a crash, but as coldly as a crack slowly spreading across a concrete wall. Ultimately, what caused Americans to turn their backs on a brand they once loved? Is it the price, the quality, or the belief that trying to fix it no longer brings the same hope as before? And just a year later, that small crack had become a giant sinkhole. Revenue plummeted, millions stopped spending, and Home Depot, a symbol of the American dream, began to freefall. Back to the summer of 2022, a sheet of plywood that used to cost $15 is now $60. An average kitchen cabinet set increased by 40% in just half a year. Americans go to buy paint, and it feels like they're buying gold. Why? Post-pandemic inflation combined with a series of new tariffs on imports, from kitchen cabinets, tables, and chairs to sinks and furniture, some items saw increases of up to 25%. This blow spread like a domino, impacting every brick, every screw. Every dollar in the American wallet is gradually turning into wood, iron, and debt. Economists liken that time to a commodity price storm. A typical suburban home in Atlanta needed 300 sheets of plywood, meaning the materials alone added over $10,000 compared to 2 years prior. And for most Americans who are struggling to make ends meet, it's no longer an upgrade cost, but a barrier between dreams and reality. Previously, Home Depot encouraged buyers to use home equity loans based on the value of their home, for renovations. But when interest rates rose, it suddenly became a trap. According to the Federal Reserve, U.S. household debt exceeded $17 trillion, a record high, and about 30% of the population doesn't even have $400 for an emergency. In other words, while material prices are rising, people's wallets are shrinking like a squeezed-out sponge. Online, a flood of comments appeared. I had to swipe my card to fix the leaky roof, then borrow to pay off the card. Every penny spent is a cause for worry. It's not just a number, it's collective psychology. Fear of debt, fear of job loss, fear of tomorrow. Once confidence in the financial future is eroded, spending on dreams also disappears. If America was ever proud of one thing, it was the middle class. the class that built the entire nation. But now they are the ones bearing the greatest pressure. One commentor said, "I used to renovate my house every year. Now I just hope the roof doesn't leak." It sounds small, but it's the story of millions of people. The middle class, which has historically been the engine of American consumption, is shifting from a state of growth to one of defense. From investing to live better, to holding on to avoid falling behind. And when they stop spending, brands like Home Depot lose their main source of revenue. This is no longer a story about material prices or interest rates. It's a collapse of trust. Americans used to believe that if they just worked hard, saved, and invested in a home, they would get ahead. But now that very house is suffocating them with debt, expenses, and worries. We used to be happy with less. The saying seems simple, but it reveals a cultural tragedy. America is not just in a financial crisis, it is in a crisis of faith in the very dream it has pursued for decades. Is this the inevitable consequence of a society that measures value by consumption? And when home is no longer a safe place, where will people find a sense of belonging? From those simmering cracks, all it takes is a small shock, rising interest rates, reduced spending, collapsing confidence, and the entire empire trembles. And that shock came. Let's see what happens in the coming minutes. Spring 2024. At a Home Depot store in Texas, the usually bustling aisles now echo with the sound of empty shopping carts rolling. On the cashier screen, the number of transactions decreased by 15% compared to the same period last year. An employee whispered, "Some days there are only 3 invoices for the whole morning, but before, you had to scan codes until your hands were tired." From being the engine of American consumerism, Home Depot began to reflect the cooling economy. Stocks lost over $30 billion in market capitalization, and nationwide home improvement sales plummeted, reaching their lowest level since the pandemic. The decline didn't come suddenly. It came silently and persistently, like the foundation crumbling under a cracked house that no one bothered to repair. If you walk into any Home Depot store in 2024, you'll see something unusual. More employees than customers. The rows of goods are overflowing, but the buyer's eyes are empty. Everything is too expensive. "I'm just buying groceries. This kitchen will have to wait a few more years." Such phrases appear every place on forums, under videos, and in comments. People are no longer buying things to upgrade. They're just trying to extend the lifespan of what they already have. In the retail industry, there's an alarming concept: dead aisles, corridors with no customers, no sales, only cold fluorescent lights. Home Depot is seeing that nationwide. This decline is not just a business failure, it's a spiritual retreat. When Americans, after decades of consumerism, finally hit the brakes. Online, people are sharing their stories. "I canceled my gym membership, cut off TV, and started growing vegetables in my backyard. I'm driving the oldest car I've ever owned, and I feel at peace." Those shared words are like the sad chorus of the great consumer detox, the largest consumer cleanse in decades. Give up shopping habits. Go back to planting. Fix things yourself. Live slowly and mindfully. It's no longer about upgrading everything, but about fixing what still works. They're not fixing their houses anymore. They're fixing themselves. And it was precisely that which caused brands like Home Depot, which thrive on an endless cycle of consumption, to lose their footing. Home Depot is not alone. A series of suppliers, subcontractors, and small woodworking shops have all been caught up in this slowdown. A flooring installer said, "Customers are canceling contracts en masse. Now I can only fulfill half the orders compared to last year." According to the report, revenue in the U.S. home improvement industry fell by nearly 10% in the first half of 2024, a seemingly small figure, but equivalent to hundreds of thousands of jobs being affected. In the bigger picture, this is the domino effect. People stop spending, businesses cut working hours and reduce staff, and money circulation slows down, and the entire economy fell into a consumer chill. Home Depot, with 2,300 stores and over 470,000 employees, became a barometer of American sentiment. When the stores were empty, it meant people's minds were closed. At a deeper level, Home Depot's decline wasn't just due to rising prices or heavy taxes. It's the result of collective disillusionment. We've built bigger houses, but trust has diminished. The saying went viral online, like a confession. For many years, Americans were taught that home renovation meant improving their lives. But now they realize, beautiful walls can't hide the feeling of insecurity about the future. One commenter wrote, "I used to think if I had a new kitchen, I'd be happier. Now I just want to pay off all my debts." This drop, therefore, is not just about revenue. It was the fall of a culture that once believed material repairs could mend all spiritual wounds. Do you think this is a sign of a healthy, self-correcting economy, or the beginning of a new recessionary cycle? When Americans stop buying paint and replacing tiles, are they losing hope, or are they regaining their sanity? The storm has passed, leaving an unusual silence. No more hammering, sawing, or drilling, only sighs in the dim light on the orange shelves. And in that silence, a question echoed. If this is the collapse, could it also be the beginning of something new? After the collapse of Home Depot, Americans began doing something unexpected. They stopped renovating their homes and started renovating their lifestyles. Small gardens are reappearing behind suburban houses. People sow seeds, grow vegetables, build their own shelves, and repair old things. Not to save money, but because they want to feel like they have some control over something. A comment online reads, "I'm canceling all subscription services. I bake my own bread and paint my own house, and I feel free." That was the first sign of the Great Reset at home, a quiet revival where people are leaving the buy, consume, discard cycle to rediscover a natural rhythm of life. If DIY videos were once a symbol of consumerism, they are now a symbol of self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and freedom from debt. Not stopping there, amidst the crisis, a new trend emerged: simple living. It's not about getting poorer, but about being rich enough. Many Americans are starting to question, how much do I really need to live well? It seemed like a small question, but it completely changed the way they spent. Luxury goods sales decreased, while sales of seeds, gardening tools, and DIY repair items increased impressively. One expert commented, "Americans are relearning skills they had forgotten, simple living skills. From growing tomatoes in the backyard and repairing an old chair instead of buying a new one, to sharing items with neighbors." This reconstruction isn't on the balance sheet, but in everyday habits. The American dream used to be measured by the size of the house and the number of cars in the garage. But now it's measured by peace of mind and the ability not to be dominated by debt. Perhaps the downfall of Home Depot isn't about the store, but about how we're redefining success. The American middle class, once the engine of consumption, is now rewriting the rules of the game. Less but more meaningful. They are choosing to live rather than own. Is this a true awakening, or just a temporary phase before the cycle of consumption restarts? And if the American dream is being rewritten, what will its next version look like? The Home Depot crisis didn't just change buyer behavior. It's forcing American businesses to rebuild their models, from serving consumption to serving value. From the failure of Home Depot, a clear truth emerges. In an age of automation and unlimited expansion, the most valuable thing is sincerity. Brands are starting to adjust their business models, from selling to building relationships, from a hardware store to a home renovation mentor, from cheaper products to more authentic experiences. If we don't relearn how to listen and connect with customer emotions, any empire, no matter how strong, will gradually become empty. What do you think? In the age of AI and automation, will humans once again become the crucial deciding factor for a brand's survival? And is smaller the stronger way to survive in the post-recession world? From the story of Home Depot, it's clear. When an economy stagnates, the first thing to collapse isn't revenue, but confidence. And only brands that know how to rebuild from that trust can weather the storm. This isn't just a story about a retail corporation. This is a mirror reflecting a tired America, and one that is relearning how to breathe. Home Depot's collapse wasn't just due to material prices, tariffs, or sales. It collapsed because people stopped spending, stopped racing, stopped seeking happiness in new things. Now they are learning to live differently, less but deeper, less shopping but more connection, and most importantly, they are rebuilding their own lives. Perhaps Home Depot's fall isn't the end, but the beginning of a more sober America, one that knows how to look back at what truly matters. What do you think? Is this a healthy period of transformation or a sign of a new era of crisis approaching? Please share your perspective below. I will read every comment. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss in-depth analyses of economics, society, and human behavior in this era of change. This video is for analytical and reflective purposes only and is based on publicly available data. It is not intended to provide financial or investment advice. Thank you for staying with me until the end. See you in the next videos.